Chapter 28 Victory Conditions. The news that the captured Arakia had been taken sent a tremor through the conference hall. Holly, what a shame. Even Holly's bow couldn't catch up to him. So he escaped. Connor, yes. The two people who sagged and apologized were Holly and Connor, both with bows in their hands. With Holly bringing the bad news, Connor went up to the top floor to chase after Arakia, who immediately ran away. Then, just as she had done when she shot Todd from outside the city, she aimed at the fugitives with a bow snipe that combined Holly's arm strength and Connor's eye power. However, the fugitives had dealt with a two-man long-range snipe and had been successfully outmaneuvered and taken out by Arakia. Connor, one of them stayed behind as a decoy, and the other one took out the 9 divine generals. I don't think we can finish this, so we should track them down immediately. A broken bar, it's no use. Two voices interrupted the frustrated Connor, who wrinkled her nose. The same words were uttered by Abel and Priscilla, who sat motionless at the round table. The two glanced at each other, and Priscilla closed her eyes. I guess it's a way of saying she'll give it to Abel. Abel, a broken bar. It is a way to get into the enemy team with a small number of people, achieve only the purpose, and escape. The role is clear if the duo are divided. Their courage to decide to do it and the judgment to escape are worthy of evaluation. They won't be caught even if we send someone after them. Connor, so what? Connor, in less than half a day, Alacia will wake up. If that happens, our pursuers won't stand a chance. If he changes his mind and returns to the city, we'll be in trouble. Let me tell you, there is no second chance for such luck. At the very least, I'd say it's reckless to prepare with our current strength. Connor, grab broken bar, a broken bar. Holly, Connor, a broken bar, a broken bar. Abel is right. Number. Connor was discouraged by Abel's words. Holly gently stroked her shoulders, comforting her. Connor, who was confident in her bow arm when she was in the previous round table meeting as deputy chief, was disappointed. However, despite the bad way he said it, Subaru nodded in agreement with Abel's argument. The Imperial soldiers who had boarded the ship would not have dared to challenge them without a chance of winning. They had set an objective that was achievable under the circumstances, found a way to beat the odds, and executed it. Naturally, they wouldn't do anything half-hearted like a one-way ticket, and they must have an appropriate plan for escape. Priscilla, no matter how you put it, that thing's fate did not end here. If that's the case, I'm sure it still has a role to play. Priscilla, a broken bar, a broken bar. Priscilla threw those words into the air when the silence fell. For Subaru, who had been discussing the treatment of Erica just before, his feelings about her not being executed and being taken out without being able to talk to her were complex. But how did Priscilla, who was not involved in Alacia's life or death, feel about her escape? That could not be read from her red eyes. Al, so, in the end, what are you going to do about Arakia? Decided to leave her alone? Subaru, a broken bar. If she's escaped to the outside, there's nothing else we can do. Subaru responded to Al's airless words with a bitter face. Having dealt with the sniping of Connor and Holly, they couldn't let the fugitives be pursued by those with only half the ability. In that case, the number of potential pursuers would be limited, but none of them would be a good idea to keep away from Garrel in the current situation. Subaru's been thinking about it a lot, but his strength comes into play when he's caught off guard, and he's vulnerable when his opponent makes the first move. That's how it turned out. Subaru? By the way, I don't think there's any chance of that, but what about the pattern where the opponent is still hiding in the city after pretending to have escaped? Zyklon, I don't think so. Although it is claimed to be a solidly fortified city, there are other loopholes besides the two large gates. Both of them have been carefully crushed in the past few days. Subaru, carefully. A broken bar, Zyklon. Yes, we had assumed that you would use the loopholes to infiltrate the city. I didn't expect you to break through from the front with a surprise move. Zyklon was caught flat-footed, but he replied calmly without a trace of displeasure. If you are the commander of a fortified city, it is natural to be wary of loopholes. However, Zyklon's instructions, which reigned as the defensive force, became a tailwind for the soldiers who fled with Arakia. Perhaps the soldier who took the first general is part of the search party for the loophole. As Abel Donor said, it's not something to take on without a chance of winning. If that's the case, I wonder if they were able to do it because they knew there was a way they could use. Isn't it possible to find the location of the hole you smashed on the map? Yes, it would be possible to make a drawing, but not right now. The city has fallen and the soldiers are very upset. This mess isn't going to go away easily. Subaru, it's not a broken bar game. That's right. If this were an act of a video game, if we could get the commander of the defeated enemy to our side, his subordinate units would join our side just like that. But reality is not a game. In a game, soldiers are represented by numbers, but each of them has a life of their own. And just as I was thinking to that point, a broken bar. Subaru, Holly-san, are you injured? Holly, yeah, you're worried about me? Natsumi is so kind. In response to Subaru's question, Holly raises her arms with a broken face. She gives him a big hug, showing that she's still alive and well. Holly, I'm a little banged up, but I'm not badly hurt, so I'll be fine in no time. Subaru, I see. That's good to hear. Though a broken bar, Holly questioned as Subaru slurred her words and dropped her gaze, noticing Subaru's inner thoughts. Connor scratched her head and said, and Connor, some of the guards we had standing inside the building have been killed. They're all dead, so we can't do anything. Subaru, what? Do you know how many they are? Connor, a broken bar, 7 men. Subaru asked for the exact number of casualties, and Connor answered hesitantly. The number of 7 dead pierced Subaru's heart deeply. On the top floor, Shudra and the Imperial soldiers, who had been injured in the attack by Alakia, were being treated by Rem, and there was no report of their deaths. No reports. View to Subaru. A broken bar. How's this a bloodless capitulation? Brushing up his long black wig, Subaru let out a heartbreaking breath. The bloodless capitulation, which he had undertaken so forcefully and said he would do, was supposed to succeed in bringing about the fall of Geralt. But despite his enthusiasm, many people died. The promise was broken, and there was no excuse for being accused of being a liar. Even if no one accused Subaru of being a fraud, he himself would be accused of being a liar. What a big liar we have here. Bloodless. Huh? There was a voice that overheard Subaru's muttering and repeated it as if ruminating. The one who did that was Priscilla, resting her cheek on the round table. She raised her well-shaped eyebrows lightly and looked at Subaru with an unusual expression. With that expression on her face, Priscilla prefaced her statement with a single word. You, Priscilla, that's a very reckless thing to say. Did you really think that you could bring down a city without shedding blood? In the middle of this war, without a force to press? Subaru. A broken bar, yes. Bad. Huh? No, it's bad. After all, we're failing. A broken bar, Priscilla. It's a ridiculous idea. That's what I'm saying. I marvel at the fact that you would even attempt to put that dream into action. Abel, are you insane? Abel, number. The plan itself was madness, though the question was directed at Abel, who crossed his arms and replied quietly. Subaru's plan was insane. In fact, anyone who listened to the outline of the plan would be forgiven for thinking so. But Abel had agreed to do it. Priscilla, who was apparently acquainted with him, did not seem to understand this. Priscilla, look at the Empire from your throne. How can you lose so much? There are no battle results without sacrifice. No pride can be maintained without bloodshed. That is the way of the Empire, is it not? Abel, I, too, have no intention of disobeying the code of the Sword Wolf. I said it was madness, but the odds were against me. In fact, if it weren't for Alasia's presence, the capitulation would have been bloodless. Priscilla, Abel, it wasn't the plan that went wrong. It's the way I see it. Priscilla, I will not allow you, even you, to make a fool of my strategist's offering. It's my decision. The blame lies with me. Priscilla, a broken bar. Abel confronted Priscilla head-on with a statement that was too unexpected. Abel's words and actions were clearly in defense of Subaru. Even though he had been appointed to the unheard-of role of military strategist, he couldn't interrupt the standoff between the two. Al, what's the matter, bro? He likes you a lot, doesn't he? You're getting a big promotion. Subaru, a broken bar. My position as Emiliatan's knight and Biko's protector is enough for me. I don't want to be given any more positions that I'm not familiar with. Subaru pushed Al away from him, and he pushed away the responsibility that was pressing down on him. However, Priscilla's attention seemed to have turned to Abel's protection. However, this does not heal Subaru's internal wound. The responsibility for the lives lost should be placed on Subaru, the one who planned and implemented the plan. Al, you can't save them all, bro, Al muttered, fiddling with the metal fittings on his helmet, as he looked at Subaru's profile. When he glanced at him, he looked up at the ceiling without looking at Subaru, and said, Al, you can't save all the people you get involved with. I don't mind if you save them, but your heart will be broken while doing so. I don't recommend it. Subaru, Al, a broken bar, Al. It's not a game, as bro say. Then it's up to you to take care of your life. This was the cynical attitude that Al sometimes displayed. It's like advice to a child who doesn't know what to say, but at the same time, it tells Subaru to accept the tragic events as they are. I guess it's kind of a good argument. In fact, Al was right. We can't save everything, and there is no end to what we can do if we decide to save them. That is why Subaru has never been able to save everyone, but the scale of a war is different. Is that really the right choice? The number of lives that can be saved by Subaru's actions is more than 10 or 100, isn't it? It's a farce, isn't it? Priscilla and Abel continued to stare at each other while Subaru and Al talked. Priscilla pulled out a fan from her cleavage and pointed with the tip of it at the conference hall, or rather, the entire city. Priscilla, even if we can successfully bring down the city with the military strategist's dedication, it's still like this. The miracle of getting rid of Arikia will not last twice. Can't we use that technique again? Abel, yes, it won't happen a second time. Abel nodded without hesitation in response to Priscilla's question. Subaru, who had frowned at the mention of the method that had driven away Arikia, also thought of it. There was a moment when Al and Arikia were in the middle of a sword fight when Arikia's behavior became strange. Subaru, that wasn't something that Al did. A broken bar. Al, yeah, it wasn't me, in the first place. If it were me, I would have done it a little smarter. I'm the one who got hit and dropped. Subaru, sure, if you ask me, the aftermath was poor, even if it was Al's work. The conversation between the two drew the attention of the conference hall to Abel. He was the only one who could have done something about it, and Abel sniffed annoyed at the gathering attention. Abel, Arikia is a spirit eater. They have a tendency to feed on the spirits in the air and take in their power. Subaru, spirit eating. A broken bar. Subaru rolled his eyes at the unfamiliar yet disturbing sound. He had already guessed that the Volca Empire had different rules and a different soil than the Lunica Kingdom, but Spirit Eater was quite a novelty. Subaru himself is a spirit magician who borrows the power of spirits. But this sounds so different from that, and to put it simply, a broken bar. Subaru, I definitely don't want to bring Biko into this. A broken bar, is this spirit eater a common thing? No, it's not. Spirit eating was originally one of the secrets of the tribes that lived on the frontier of Volca, but it was so powerful that it was destroyed and the way to possess it was lost. Abel, at least, as far as I know, there are no known spirit eaters outside of Alasia. If there had been, I would have politely protected them. That was the observers. A broken bar, no, it doesn't matter now. Abel shook his head, not wanting to digress, and returned to the rail. Subaru, too, was relieved to hear that spirit eating is not a common practice, and that Beatrice is no longer in danger of being bitten. Asks, so? He asked back. Subaru, how did you confuse the spirit eater, Alasia? Abel, I didn't confuse her. I just made her mana sick. Al, mana sickness a broken bar haha, I see. That's a very clever thing to do. Abel's answer made sense, and Al nodded admiringly as he stroked his chin. Mana intoxication didn't ring a bell with Subaru. As I recall, I thought it was something like a broken bar that people with a hypersensitive constitution to mana tend to get sick when they go to places where the concentration of mana is really thick. Arikia is susceptible to that kind of influence due to her spirit eater characteristic. It's a prerequisite for taking in spirits, however, that you have a reasonable level of resistance to them. If you go beyond that premise and try to make Alacia drunk on mana, you'll get a broken bar. Abel, yeah, using a secret treasure, including the amount spent on that. I'm done. Abel's chin twitched as he said that, and he indicated Subaru. Subaru frowned. Treasure? And tilted his head. Subaru had no idea what treasure he had used. Subaru, what secret treasure are you talking about? When did I get your a broken bar? Abel, during the lifeblood ritual, you broke the ring to break the Hexenbeast's horn. That's the one. Subaru, oh. A broken bar. He'd lost track of it, but it brought back memories of a ring he'd borrowed that allowed him to use magic in the throes of battle. He had no choice but to punch Urgina's horn with the ring, shattering it and snapping the magical beast's horn. But instead Subaru's arm and ring were left in tatters, and something else that was mentioned in the same breath was that he used it in the fight with Alacia. Abel, I stepped on a hidden ring, shattering it as I dropped the balcony. It took a while for the mana it contained to flood and fill the area around it, but a broken bar. Little Arikia was like that because she was mana sick. Well, I'm the one who was easily beaten by that girl. Subaru, did you do that little trick in that moment? A broken bar. Even though they were all in a state of battered and wounded, I take my hat off to Abel's resignation that he was still searching for a way to win even though he was cornered by the strongest rank in the Empire. Subaru's resilience was quite good, but his intelligence was so different from Abel's that he couldn't get over the difference between just a bad move and a desperate counterattack. Priscilla, isn't this the plan that you originally prepared for Arikia? It's very bold of you to prepare such a plan when you don't know when you'll be caught in the act. Abel, the more people you keep close to you, the more you have to prepare for when they turn against you. A broken bar in particular. I never knew when Alacia would turn on me. Priscilla, but you only get one chance to use your wiles. It's not easy to prepare enough magic stones to make a person mana sick. It will be essential to secure a decent fighting force before the next opportunity. So long. When she had said that much, Priscilla cut off her words meaningfully, covering her mouth with her fan. Priscilla narrowed her red eyes and glared at Abel, with a somewhat probing, testing look in her eyes. She let out a small exhale and Priscilla, adding the Shudra people to your ranks was expected. A broken bar. However, it's hard to see how you could be foolish enough to adopt a dreamy military strategist's plan for a bloodless invasion of a fortified city. Priscilla, in this way, I cannot advise her collaborators to support you. Subaru, collaborators? Priscilla said flatly, as if it were a matter of course, and Subaru was astonished. It was not only Subaru who was surprised, but everyone in the conference hall except Abel and Al, aside from Priscilla's companion. Al, it seems unreasonable that Abel is not surprised, but Subaru does not mention it. Subaru, wait, you're jumping the gun. I don't know what your stance is on cooperating with a broken bar. I heard that you came to help Abel, but a broken bar. Priscilla, I'm not here to help. Don't take my clownish ramblings seriously. Subaru, all right. I don't care if you've come to save Abel or not. That's not the point. What I want to hear is your big goal. As we heard, the immediate sub-goal was to talk to Abel. However, what Subaru wanted to know was why Priscilla, she and Al, and possibly the other relatives they had brought with them, were in the Volca Empire. On top of that, it would be best if he knew if they were willing to side with Abel or not. Subaru, answer me, honestly. I and everyone else are not sure how to gauge what to think of you. Priscilla, that's stranger than I thought. I don't care what the plebeian thinks of me. I will do what I want to do. After all, a broken bar. Subaru, the world is made to suit you, isn't it? Priscilla sniffed at Subaru's tracing of her philosophy, which was familiar to her ears. Then, noticing the increased number and sharpness of the glances directed at her, Priscilla closed one eye. Priscilla, the purpose of mine is to restore the Emperor to his former throne. If not, I will receive a constant stream of annoying visitors. Abel, I don't have to tell you, the assassins were not sent by me. Priscilla, I don't even suspect it. That's why I took the trouble to come here. It would be more accurate to say that I had my wings carry me, with one eye closed. Priscilla answered Abel and turned her gaze upward. What it shows is not the ceiling, but the night sky beyond it. More to the point, it's not just the sky, but an existence that makes the sky its owner. Subaru, don't tell me you and Al flew in from the sky. Al, oh, it's like a flying dragon express delivery service. To be honest, I thought it was the end of the world when the princess jumped off by herself. I couldn't do the same thing, and I couldn't get down until they lowered the altitude. The flying dragon. A broken bar scared the hell out of me, as did the water dragon and Priscilla. In addition to the water dragon, which was a fantasy creature other than the earth dragon, the existence of the flying dragon surfaced. From what I've heard, flying dragons are extremely ferocious and require specialized skills to be tamed. Since there are not many technicians for that, being able to ride a flying dragon in the first place is a rare thing. Subaru, in other words, someone who can deliver a flying dragon express delivery is Priscilla's collaborator. Priscilla, don't be so despicable as to snatch the words out of my mouth. In your case, your lowliness outweighs your cleverness. Polish your pretty face. You can still look good if you fix your makeup. Subaru, if you fix your makeup in this situation, your head's not right. You know, a broken bar. If I were to say that, the fact that I hadn't hadn't been able to undress as a woman might be considered a problem in itself. But the people here could read the air, so I didn't mention it. Anyway, I'm getting way off track again. Buta broken bar Subaru. If the goal is to get Abel back on the throne, does that mean we can cooperate with each other? Priscilla, I'm afraid I can't give you a straightforward nod. I have not forgotten my earlier words. If this thing doesn't have the qualities of an emperor, there's no point in bringing it back. Abel glared at Priscilla. His gaze sharpened as he was questioned head-on about the qualities of an emperor. What Priscilla sees as a problem is not the failure to carry out the bloodless castle proposed by Subaru and approved by Abel, but the problem with the idea in the first place. In the Volocca way, laxity can be fatal. In fact, lives were lost because of Subaru's laxity. Her suspicion was undeniable. However, Abel, I will reclaim the throne. I don't care what anyone says, I'm going to do it. Priscilla, no matter what you say, it will never change. Abel assures Subaru, who is on the verge of silence. It was the same or even more passionate declaration that he had made when he revealed his true identity in front of Subaru and said that he would take back this country. Hearing Abel's resolve, the expressions on the faces of those in the conference room changed. Kana and Holly had the will to fight to follow as the people of Shadra, while Zykel hung his head as if he was facing something divine. Al turns to Priscilla to see how she reacts, and Priscilla's eyes narrow as she is asserted head-on. Priscilla, the spirit is undiminished, but the reality is not. In fact, you've been forced from your throne. Abel, Priscilla, the circumstances are already known. The question is, who started it? Whose plan was it? Abel, I'm sure it was the vizier. Burst Hetz, who drew the picture. Abel answered Priscilla's question with a hint of hostility in his dark eyes. The vizier is the position at the top of a state government, and is a close associate of the king or emperor. If the pinnacle of the armed forces is the general or the head of a knight order, then it may be said to be the pinnacle of a civil service. In any case, it is truly the number 2 position that is easy to betray. Priscilla, that old tree, how dare he use Lamia's inheritance? Abel, of course, I had foreseen his rebellious intentions and prepared accordingly. But a broken bar. Abel broke off there and exhaled quietly. It was a reaction that was unlike him. The first time he had shown anything close to weakness. As emperor, he had never wavered even when he was forced to leave his position, but this was the first time he had shown a faint weakness. The cause of this weakness was not the prime minister who betrayed him, Abel, but the fact that he couldn't see the rebellious intentions of the 9 divine generals who had Chisha Gold a broken bar watching over him. Zykel, nonsense. General Chisha. As Abel spat out his ashamed thoughts, Zykel couldn't help but raise his voice. Zykel, the empire's second general, must have been familiar with the name of the 9 divine generals, a name that Subaru did not know. Attracting the gaze of the round table, he stroked his rich hair. Zykel, General Chisha is unique among the 9 divine generals in his ability. The first general himself is more famous for his wisdom than his military fame, and he was the one who supported His Excellency Vincent the most during the election ceremony. A broken bar. Subaru, does that mean he's the best right-hand man? You mean he was betrayed by his political right-hand man, the Prime Minister, and his longtime right-hand man, the General? Abel, don't pile on. My right arm is attached to my right shoulder. Subaru, that doesn't sound like a strong point, even if you say it now. A broken bar. Listening to Zykel's explanation, Subaru was surprised by Abel's popularity, which was unexpectedly lacking. However, listening to the radical ideology of the Volocca Empire, an emperor who was deemed to be lacking in power would be immediately rebelled against, so perhaps it was not an uncommon occurrence. Subaru, is it common for emperors to run for cover in this country? Abel, since I've been on the throne, there have only been 2 times when I've been chased, at least in form. Subaru, but you've got a record. Abel, nonsense. It was the kingdom's Kingsguard knights who brought me around. If you want to complain, you can tell them. He gave Subaru a seriously disappointed look, and Subaru got tired of poking him and held his tongue. I think Julius once told me that he went to the Empire as an emissary, but I'd like to think that this has nothing to do with that. If so, the world is too small. The Emperor was chased from the throne by his confidants and aides, and Arikiju-chan was also an enemy. A broken bar. Doesn't that sound dangerous? It seems dangerous, right? Abel, the same 9 divine generals. Girls laugh. And a broken bar. He was instrumental in letting me escape. If it wasn't for that thing stopping me, I wouldn't have been able to activate the transfer mechanism. Zykel, oh, as expected of the first general Gaz. A broken bar. Abel, however, if the 9 divine generals other than Chisha and Ariki also turned, I don't know how far Gaz alone could have resisted. It is more likely that he would have been killed. The existence of the 9 divine generals who had risked their lives to protect Abel was a hope, but it was a very fleeting hope. However, Zykel shook his head. No, he said. Zykel, if I may be so bold, I have not received any news of General Gaz's death. Whether he died in battle or from illness, the death of a man of General Gaz's stature cannot be hidden for long. Abel, then there is the possibility of being a captive? Zykel, perhaps. No, surely. If you're a warrior as good as first-class General Gaz. At Abel's words, Zykel bowed reverently. If he had earned this kind of respect from Zykel, then this Gaz must be a very big man, or a woman, contrary to his stern name. Priscilla, when the Prime Minister and the 9 divine generals are enemies, the Empire is as good as dead. Priscilla, who had finished listening to the conversation before asking a useless question, muttered that. While agreeing with her words, Subaru raised his hand and said, Hey, Subaru, I know it's a little late, but what about Abel coming forward as the Emperor? That way, the people who are quietly running the government in the imperial capital can be called rebels and traitors. A broken bar. Al, I'm sorry, but you can't expect the angry populace and soldiers to turn the coup regime into a bloodbath. bro, Subaru. I'm not thinking that hard. But why, Abel? Because this is the Volcan Empire, where the powerful are respected. Subaru's suggestion was rejected, and Al's words were supplemented by Abel's. The Emperor, ousted from his throne, folds his arms, his shapely eyebrows in a slight scowl. Abel, if I come forward and announce my intention to reclaim the imperial city myself, I will be welcomed. But that doesn't mean they'll support me. What was taken from you, you will take back. That is the way of things, Subaru. Not only goods and lands, but also the Emperor's throne. A broken bar Abel. There are no exceptions. Therefore, I know what I have to do. Subaru, who was trying to wrap his head around the situation, was surprised by Abel's words. Just when he thought he was at a loss, Abel's answer was rather the opposite. He stood up and slowly put his hands on the round table. And though Abel, seconded General Zykel, the map. Zykel, yes, right away. Zykel is told, and flies instructions to the Imperial soldiers waiting in the corner of the room. The Imperial soldiers immediately peeled off the map that hung on the wall of the conference hall and spread it out on the round table. It was a world map showing the entire world, including Volca. Abel, we're in the east, and the citadel city of Garel is here, and the imperial capital Rupgana, which should be reclaimed, is roughly in the center of the empire. Subaru, a broken bar Volca. That's pretty big. The map showed me the size of the country, which I hadn't been aware of until now. The Volca Empire, which occupies the southern part of the world map, is the largest compared to the other countries. The Badheim jungle that Subaru and the others had gone through so much trouble to get through was only a small geographic area from the perspective of the whole of Volca. Abel, each city in the empire is controlled by its own city chief or lord, as is the case with Geralt. Each of these cities has its own autonomous force and will not hesitate to fight in case of emergency. We will add these under our umbrella and secure strength to retake the imperial capital. Subaru, a broken bar. I can see that this is a royal pattern in a simulation of a national theft. Abel, you seem to be displeased. Subaru, of course, this is a big job for a single Geralt. I don't think it's going to work out this way. Pointing to the map, Subaru managed to keep up with Abel as he explained. I can manage to keep up with him, but it's a matter of logic, not emotion. As I said earlier, this is not a game. There is no way that a method that would work in a simulation RPG could be easily applied to reality. Abel's opinion seemed to be quite optimistic. However, Abel, there is a way to dispel your concerns. Rather, there is a way to do what I must do. Subaru, essential conditions. A broken bar Abel. Secure 9 divine generals. Subaru rolls his eyes when he hears that answer. It's no wonder. After all, he had just told them that Abel had been forced to leave the throne because of his betrayal by the 9 divine generals. The favored 9 divine generals were unaccounted for, and the 2 known 9 divine generals were already enemies. The rest had broken bar. Subaru, what about the other 9 divine generals? A broken bar Abel. There. Abel pointed a finger at the sudden question and nodded at Subaru's agitation. Then he looked around at the faces of everyone except Subaru. Abel, the Emperor's people are strong. The 9 divine generals are the embodiment of this rule. In other words, if you want to be the champion of the Volca Empire, you must unite the 9 divine generals. Subaru. So, in other words, a broken bar. After Abel's words, Subaru's eyes widened as he realized what was to follow. Abel's cheeks twisted at Subaru's reaction, and he smiled belligerently. And you, Abel, Sisilus Sigmund, the Blue Thunderbolt, Arakia, the Spirit Eater, Oddbart Dunglicken, the Vicious Master, Shisha Gold, the White Spider, Gaz Ralphan, the Lion Knight, Groovy Gamlet, the Spellcaster, Jonna Misaga, the Painted One, Mogro Hagain, the Steel Man, and Madline Ischut, the Flying Dragon General, A Abel. The winner of this battle will be the one who secures more of the 9 divine generals. That's how we're going to win, and it's an absolute condition that I must fulfill.